Hi, and welcome to Ward 13 with John Hopwood. Sadly, the QCC no longer exists. I have Mr. Baseball here, John Weeks. I guess this could be the last episode of the QCC.
Really? I didn't know that.
Well, what were we talking about this week, Mr. Baseball?
Well, you're talking about a 4-panel sports show.
Well, I would think that since, it'd be interesting to turn this time, and I remember Mike Doyle used to have Thursday and do some real sports, not just baseball.
Yeah.
But we've got all different teams.
Yeah, I'm limited to baseball.
Right, but you can still be a panelist with people.
Oh, absolutely, I can do that.
And baseball lasts all year long. The
Yeah.
hot stove league and all.
Yeah, not much activity right now, but it's.
Yes, we're going to have somebody. The first half hour or so. Did you tell the people down at Billy's Sports Bar that you're going to be on tonight?
No, I haven't gone there yet.
Well, you could give them a call from the phone and tell them to put it up on the screen.
Oh, they know what time we do the show.
But that doesn't mean they're going to put it up right now.
They're not going to bump. They're not going to put us with volume.
Well, still, you'd be up there. We'll get the Asker Awards over quickly, and, we have David Colapinto, the famous lawyer, is going to call in and bemoan the fate of the Red Sox.
Okay.
Which, yeah.
I
Frommer, the Red Sox versus the Yankees. Well, let's get to the Asker Awards first, folks. Whether I'll ever be back on Manchester media remains to be seen. Oh, I have a $5 check for you, Kirsten, although I forgot that. Actually, Dr. Kevin was supposed to be on tonight, but he gets sick. He was going to do a show about tarot cards. He has a different pronunciation.
Tarot cards?
Tarot, T-A-R-O-T.
Yeah. Oh, tarot, yeah.
Tarot, you call it. He has another name.
Oh.
If I didn't, I was educated on the west side of Manchester. I have no idea how to pronounce words in French or English.
Who does?
Let alone Russian.
Yeah.
The Asker Award. This Asker Award, we have the Queen City Chronicles and Ward 13. Hey, so, tune in next week and see what the show's called. This is the Asker Award, first given out in 2013 on Amsterdam, the most popular show that ever existed on Manchester Public Television.
Really?
The boys went over to the morning show. Joel and Peter. And Paulie C was there off and on at times. And he occasionally drops in.
Uh-huh.
Paul Cormier, who makes these great videos. And hey, there's now a new channel, 97. It's like a historic channel where they're showing old board meetings. Well, isn't that exciting?
Oh,
See
yeah, that
Frank Ginta running a meeting. or
Honey, give me a beer. The board meetings are on.
But you know, they're just starting it. I think like Paul Cormier makes these great videos. That would be a natural eventually, like if they can get them on there. And I think the morning show is being shown also on it. And I think Matt Connor's Unleashed in the afternoon will be shown on it too.
Ah.
And but this is the asker. The first winner. Well, let's just say, why do they call it the? Why don't you ask me, Mr. Bass? We'll put the camera on.
Why do they call that the Asker
Well, that's a
Award?
good question, although we didn't get the camera on you. Well, now we have it on. Keep it on him while I answer. The Asker Award is kind of, ask not what I can do for the city. Ask what the city can do for me. And as a joke, we gave it to Phil Griazzo, the former alderman at Ward 10.
Okay.
But we're taking nominations tonight. And we have the number 640-3091. Oh, 603. I always tell people 603. A real idiot, there's only one area code.
Right.
Unlike, the Bay Area of California, which it metastasizes like cancer, how many area codes you're going to get. But very convenient, though, 603. And you don't even have to dial it. Although I got to send it out to Dave Colapinto, who's going to call in and lament in the baseball part of the show.
Yeah.
But why don't we get the first nominee? Although there's going to be two people up here. The first nominee, if we can get it on the screen.
And who that might be.
I don't know. Well, we'll give you some background. There we go. Oh, wow. I'm nominating Joseph Kelly Levasseur. I'm not nominating Rich Girard. What is it based on? Well, last Wednesday, Joe Kelly Levasseur on his television show declared war on Joyce Craig, the new mayor. That's just my opinion. Joe's an attorney at law. I understand that Joe Kelly Levasseur one time threatened legal action because I made a joke on a radio show here.
Oh.
Yeah. I had made the joke that Joe gave perpetual candidate Glenn R.J. Ouellette the $100 so he could run for mayor. Now that's a joke I've heard ever. Little did I know. No, Rocky is still at home. And that's the flying squirrel.
Oh.
And yes, but that's a whole thing for another show.
There you go.
Yes. Oh, geez, I'm holding it up. So on his show, he mentioned that this is what he said, that Keith Hirschman, who is running for the chairman of the board,
Uh-huh.
got, I guess, I haven't seen the show. The first time watching it was, I can't believe what I saw. And that allegedly, I'm not sticking by this word for word until they get me in a court of law and I can see the damn thing again. That Keith Hirschman, who I went from 7th grade to, we were in the same homeroom 7th grade through last year of high school because the ages.
Right.
And alleges that Joyce Craig said that she would not break a tie in a board for the chairman of the board. Now, I've heard from sources, not from Joyce Craig, unlike the union leader, I'm not up there having tea with her and whispering in her ear. Because we all know if I was, she'd have won by 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 votes, right? She'd probably be in a plane in exile in Aruba.
How much did she win by?
I think 1,500.
1,500. That's...
So that she promised she would not break the tie. I hear that guarantee was never given.
Ah.
Now, I'm not saying anything. You don't see Keith being nominated, although right now,
No, right now.
Keith not. How much do I want to talk about this, Mr. Basement?
Yeah, I don't know.
So, but Mr. Lavassa said this. We can always say there was an understanding, right? When there's only two people in a room. But I would like to tell people, you can go on to Rich Gerard's site, who is here, if it's still up, and he has a feature that's been there for years, the case against Joe Kelly Lavassa. Now, I went to a unique chairman of the board, board of mayor and all the meeting, many months ago, where a conduct board was considered, and I heard in a defense of a stalwart erstwhile mayor that they had put, I think, and I'm not going to swear, I'm going to go look it all up. So this is just off the top of your head, could be wrong, and always considered Joe a friend. And then it's like my sister calls me and says, "This is your friend. You should watch him on TV." And he's saying, "Well, I remember when they went after me." But people not pointing out at that evening that what they did was the Attorney General investigated certain charges that Mr. Lavassa made against former police chief Mara in the police department, where I think he was found that he was not truthful.
Not truthful.
Not truthful.
Oh.
Yes. But, I'm not going to swear to that. Maybe in a week or so, if I'm still here, if I haven't been exiled to Aruba. Nobody's offering me the place in Aruba.
To Elba. You're going to Elba, not Aruba.
I'd rather go to Aruba with this weather.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
And so, here is this situation, this situation where a very vituperative, to have watched that show, it was rather astounding. The vitriol, the anger being thrown by this alderman, who had been admonished to curb that type of behavior against the new mayor, who he all but called a liar.
Ah.
And once again, that's just my interpretation. Maybe next week I'll have everything laid out in front of me. So I would like to nominate Joe Lavassa for the Oscar Award,
No?
Because, hey, the Attorney General said a few years ago that he found them less than truthful when he attacked Chief Mara. So maybe this is a person, I don't know.
That case, I'll second it.
No, you're not going to do that, because we don't want you getting into any trouble, because you might have assets. Here's another pair of shoes I've got.
I thought
I dug those out of the garage.
I thought it was a friendly thing.
My old top size.
That's why I stay away from politics.
I agree, but because maybe he's just running for mayor. So ask not
what your country can do for you.
What I can do for the city, what the city can do for me. And it's very unusual, when I did go to that meeting, it was last year, and I heard Mr. Hirschman impugn my character, saying that I had a certain sense of animus against a certain politician.
Uh-huh.
It was very unusual listening to that, because I remember Mr. Hirschman in two mayoral elections ago providing me some information about yet another candidate and a certain mystery. I'm not saying Keith did anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing at all wrong. But it is very unusual to hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
When he was portraying himself as I was in what my parents, a house I am right now, called the TV room. And I remember him talking to me.
Yeah.
Portraying himself as not a Gatsa supporter. And what he said to me, I guess I'll have to vote for Joyce Craig. And then he comes out on one of a certain other candidate during the final in 2015. He's one of the people supporting the other candidate that's not Joyce Craig. Very unusual when you're going and hearing these people saying stuff and knowing things about them. Right. Oh boy,
Yeah.
this fall. might sink somebody. But
Yeah.
I don't want to do that, though.
I hear you.
But we'll nominate Keith Hirschman, too, for the Oscar, because he is running for mayor. He went around with, mayoral, I have pictures of it, mayoral things. So we got two
Okay.
nominations. And why don't we nominate, we're not going to nominate Rich Gerard. I'm not going to nominate him. You call in 6403091. Anybody. You can nominate anybody you want. and then we'll have the nominations. We'll vote on them eventually. I'm going to nominate, because Rich Gerard called them one day. Rich and them used to be very much enemies. Then suddenly they all became pals during the last elections. Strange bedfellows in elections, right? Strange bedfellows. Geez, if I'd bed down with anybody, I might be more of a success. My great feat in electoral politics was leading the Democratic ticket in the Hillsborough County elections. Yeah, I led it in the fewest votes.
Oh, infused.
Yeah, and my father's hometown, where I give the Memorial Day speech each year, they came in really heavy for me. 2/3 of them voted against me. Such is politics.
Yeah.
But I remember that Rich called. He said he saw Joe and Keith walking down the street. This is when they were enemies or frenemies or whatever the hell politicians are.
You're right.
And he called them Tennessee Tuxedo, which would be Joe, and Chumley. And I remember I was still friends with him, and I remember calling up and telling Keith. He says, "Did he say I was fat? Maybe I shouldn't be revealing all this stuff. It's just hearsay after all. But, as God is my witness to the Holy Virgin, it's true."
Ah.
And
Well, it's out of my realm.
So I'm going to nominate Tennessee Tuxedo and Chumley, too. So we got 3 nominations, folks.
Wow.
Anybody for the Oscar award. This is a prestigious award. Why, this is made of high-grade plastic. God knows where it came from, because the Oscars they use in the when they're doing they set up and, they got them in. There's a lot of rehearsals are made out of plaster, and they break them and throw them into a garbage can. But it looks pretty good,
It does.
the Oscar award.
Yeah.
And it's coveted. I mean, it never actually changes hands. Because I think we gave it to, when Peter and Joel finally moved over to the radio, I think we gave them the Oscar. I remember Matt Connerton giving it to them. And it's got like a string. It comes right back.
Yeah.
Kind of like Kevin Spacey's Oscars. Maybe if they're going to bring them back, too.
Yeah.
Well, So how are you feeling before we go off into the world of baseball?
Finally, I feel well. But I was sick for a good week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it around Christmas and just getting over it. So it's a little more than a week, actually. But I feel pretty good today.
Oh, I've been having lots of problems, but since that might be part of a lawsuit, I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah. And I didn't think I'd get in there today. Yeah. It's amazing, though, violating your physician's ironclad rules can really pep you up.
Oh, isn't that true?
Yes, I'm not supposed to drink Diet Moxie, folks. Only the real thing.
Oh, and that's diet?
Oh, jeez. I feel like I've shed 20 pounds.
That is diet.
Yes. Much better than the real stuff.
I cannot drink diet.
Yeah, Diet Moxie is easier to take than a regular Moxie. The great thing about Moxie is you can leave it up for an hour or so, and it doesn't go flat,
Oh,
or even longer.
I remember as
And
a
the
kid.
bottle lasts forever, too.
I remember as a kid it tasted horrible.
Yeah, but now you have fewer taste buds.
Yeah, I had a Moxie by mistake a few years ago. It wasn't that bad, but as a kid they were terrible.
The favorite beverage of E.B. White, who
Oh.
wrote Charlotte's Web, and was also a New Yorker editor. You know that his son-in-law is a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Do you know who it is?
No.
Roger Angell, probably the greatest
Oh, you're going with
baseball writer ever.
yeah.
Well, he wrote for the New Yorker from the 60s through
Yeah.
probably 2000. He was born about 1920. Superb writing.
Yeah. Is he alive?
I don't know.
He was born in 20? He was born.
Yeah, the last I heard of him, he had a final collection in the early part of this century when he was in his early 80s.
Wow.
But that was his stepfather, E.B. White.
Yeah.
What do you have there, Mr. Bay? Should we,
I have a book.
can we, oh my God. I remember reading a Mad magazine cartoon. My mother would never, if she saw I had a Mad, would go crazy because of the Kefauver Committee about comics are going to lead you off into hell.
Right.
Well, I remember one from when I was like 12 or 13 years old said, you know you're old when you buy a Coca-Cola just so it'll give you gas. I wonder, what the hell's that about? But, you know, when you're old fart now, which I'm qualified for, you do seem to have gas trapped in you. So this, you send more gas down to get it out.
Right.
Kind of like drilling for oil. And so I guess we have no baseball backgrounds or anything. We don't have the... Can we get the...
There you
well,
go.
we don't want... This isn't the Mr. Baseball show. Can we get a Casey Stengel background?
Oh, wonderful.
Can we get the revolving eye?
Not yet.
Could we get the baseball oracle?
This is the only baseball one that I've done so far. So I have to make other ones if you want other ones. So you're going to have to give me a minute.
Oh, yeah. I would like to... The baseball oracle is always good. It's less offensive
All
to
right.
Mr. Baseball. All right.
At any rate, I got my latest book of my 2,500 volume library on baseball.
Did you write this book?
No, it's called The Red Sox versus the Yankees, the Great Rivalry. Now let's fantasize for a little bit. Who was the worst owner in Red Sox history?
Well, you would say Harry Frazier.
Well,
but
you hit the nail on the nose.
but I would say that he was sent to Boston to buy up the team and send Babe Ruth and everybody. So
Well, he was more interested in show business than the
yes,
baseball.
But everybody says he sold Babe Ruth to do No No Nanette, which was actually 6 years later.
Yeah, 3, I think.
Well, it was like Bob. We had the guy. Was it Bob Johnson or something? Who bought? He had the lease on Yankee Stadium in the '50s, and then he bought the Kansas City Athletics. And
Oh,
sent
Johnson,
everything.
yeah.
But you go ahead.
Okay, let's just say they had an owner that really cared about the Red Sox and did not sell Babe Ruth and did not sell Carl Mays.
You're asking me a question, so the baseball oracle is fitting because, of course, Casey was a Boston Bees man.
Oh, wasn't he, though? And he wouldn't have sold some of those players, Carl Mays, George
I guess we're
Pipgrass,
going to put the ass.
Wilcie Moore. Now, I just want to read just a small sentence.
Okay.
Let's say the Red Sox had Babe Ruth and kept those other players. In 1925, the Yanks sought to trade a first baseman even up to the Red Sox for Phil Todt, T-O-D-T. Boston passed on the trade. The first baseman,
was
Lou Gehrig,
why did
became
you,
one of the greatest players of all time.
Why did you just go into that? What I was about to say, you were supposed to ask me the question. Who is it?
Who is it?
Lou Gehrig. You know, Mr. Baseball, we've got to get you ready for, when I'm not here anymore. You've got to get, I never give you any breathing space, so you decided to give it back to me without giving me any.
No,
They
I
had
didn't
Wally
think it.
Pip. He had played 1,300 games. No, that was Everett Scott. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Todt batted .258 lifetime with 57 home runs. And we know what Gehrig did.
And who ever heard of that? That's the first time I ever heard of that. Have you ever heard of that before?
No, I hadn't.
It's made up.
No, it's not made.
Yes,
up.
it is.
The bottom sentence.
I was at National Security, for a while.
So just say they had Ruth and Gehrig and all those pitchers. The dynasty might have been different. Might have been the Red Sox dynasty.
They
for
were never
years.
going to trade Lou Gehrig.
He wasn't. They had Wally Pip.
They had. Well, I watched the movie, and Walter Brennan said that this was a hell of a player. Remember, he saw him up at Columbia, and the baseball sails right through the glass plate, which is later in The Natural with Robert Redford, which you refuse to see. You say you don't like baseball movies.
I don't care for them. Yeah, I liked the Lou Gehrig story, the one you're talking about, Walter Brennan.
Come on, I don't believe this at all.
Well,
They always have to make all this stuff up to get you to buy the book.
oh, I didn't read that. It's stuff in there that I know firsthand. It's all the.
I have never heard that in 40 years.
This is just about the Red Sox and Yankees, no other teams, and all the trades they made through the years, the big games, people commenting on the rivalry like Cuomo and.
Hey, how many games? They have Cy Young in here. How many games did Cy Young pitch from 50 feet? He's one of the.
Was he one of the
Yeah, he started out pitching at
50 feet?
At 50 feet.
Wow.
He wasn't a hell of a. He wasn't much of a. Well, you know.
I would think that the pitcher had the advantage at 50 feet.
Did he?
I would think so.
Yeah, but you can't throw a breaking ball at 50 feet.
No, I don't think you could. But you could throw some heat. And change-ups. Oh, change-up would be devastating.
Wow, then you win 60 games. Let's keep it at 60.
Okay.
Old Hoss Radbourne.
Yeah.
5'8" tall. He owned the tavern.
Did he own a tavern?
Yeah, that's
Old
how
Hoss?
That's how he drank himself.
Self to death?
I think he won 308 games.
Did he?
I think so. Mr. Baseball, you're the one who should know this stuff.
Oh, like I know every single stat that ever happened.
Who won the MVPs this year, Mr. Baseball? Did we ever get to that?
Stanton won it, who's now with the Yankees. And
The Banditos Yankees.
the Astros, the second.
Thieving Yankees. Cheating Yankees.
Oh, they're cheating now.
We're going to have a lawyer calling in, and he's going to indict Derek Jeter.
Indict him, huh?
What else do we have? What else do us Red Sox fans have to do?
And
except moan.
And the other MVP was the second baseman of the Astros.
Altuve.
Yeah.
Who I would like to see him in a Red Sox uniform.
Who wouldn't? He hit 3 home runs in Fenway.
Geez, and then he's not even paid that much.
No, well, he will be.
Some reliever got paid $17.5 million a year for 3 or 4 years. Some bum.
Yeah. The game's turned to having a bullpen. If you get 6 innings out of a pitcher, you're happy.
Yeah, but
let the bullpen take over.
This new jackass that the Red Sox have has decided he doesn't really need a bullpen, and he's going to use his closer. I'll bring him in the 7th inning. I'll get a 3. What is it? What does he think? This is Goose Gossage, and it's 1977.
Yeah. Or Dick Raditz.
Hey, I'll tell you. Raleigh Fingers went 328.
Yeah.
There was a lot of 3-4 inning saves, and Goose went a lot of 4-inning saves too.
Yes. Yeah.
Sparky Lyle.
Joe Page went 3 or 4 innings. Yeah.
Mike Marshall blew his arm out twice after setting records in both leagues, which have never been equaled.
I was watching the 74 series yesterday. I watched 2 or 3 series, and I'll never forget the
Dodgers versus the
Oakland
Athletics.
A's. Yeah.
Walt Austin's last.
Yeah.
And Marshall was the MVP that year, first reliever to be MVP.
Right. And
Lusty 21 saves.
he refused to warm up. He always threw 5 pitches, and then there was a delay. And Joe Rudy said to the on-deck batter, "You think he's so egotistical that he won't warm up? He's going to throw me a fastball," which he did. And Rudy deposited it into the left field seats.
Yeah, because you can come out and throw a fastball.
Yeah.
You've got to heat yourself up a little for the other stuff.
Yeah.
It does, and it helps to warm yourself up for the fastball too.
Yeah.
That's when you blow a rotator cuff out.
Yeah, he was egotistical, to say the least. But he was a great reliever. He pitched 105 games that year.
I think it was more than that.
Was it?
Oh, we got an incoming call. Hello, who's this? You're on either the baseball show, the QCC, or Ward 13. Take your pick.
I thought we were going to talk about baseball.
Is this David Colapinto?
Yes, it is.
We are talking. Did you ever? Now, Mr. Baseball, tell him what you were telling me, but make it a question.
Okay.
Right. Mr. Baseball has a trivia question for you as I move this thing over so the audience can see my loveliness.
In 1925, the Yanks sought to trade a first baseman, even up to the Red Sox, for Phil Tott.
Okay.
T-O-D-T.
Who was it?
Who was the first baseman?
I don't know.
It was Lou Gehrig, who became one of the
No
great,
way.
became one of the greatest players of all time. The Red Sox passed on the trade. Tott batted .258 lifetime with 57 home runs.
Does anybody actually believe that?
I do. It's in a book. You know who's gonna
It's in a book.
who's gonna make it up?
Hey, I'm in books. Along with Roger Stone book. I'm in Roger Stone's book.
So if you want to
That's quite an accomplishment.
if you wanted to fantasize and say the Red Sox had a good owner at that time, which they didn't, they had Harry Frazee, who was more interested in show business than his Red Sox team, and he sold all his great ball players: Ruth, Will Seymour, Pipgrass.
How many
Carl
Hall
Mays.
of Famers?
Several. Red Ruffing, but he was later Red Ruffing.
Well, he built the 1921, 20. Did they go to 21, 22, 23?
Yeah. Yankees did.
3 pennants, and they only won in 23. That was a
Right.
Red Sox team, essentially.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So the dynasty could have been reversed. Could have been the Red Sox over all these years if they had kept Ruth, got Gehrig. You know, you can really fantasize about that.
Hey, guess who we were talking about before you called in? 1972, a pitcher that Eddie Casco didn't like, so he decided to swap him to the Ralph Houck had his eye on him for many years. So Eddie Casco gave Ralph Houck a certain reliever for Danny Cater.
Oh,
Yeah, we all know that is Sparky Lyle.
yeah.
What- you know,
Yeah.
maybe if he had if they had picked up Goose Gossage and it blew his mind, which it did that year, he wins the Cy Young. Then George gets Goose, and he was never the same reliever after. Maybe he could have been a Hall of Famer, but we'll never know. But
Yeah, he was a good pitcher with the Red Sox too, but you know,
well, he's
the Reds.
an outstanding reliever. Hey, who do you want to talk about first? The Washington Nationals or our beloved Red Sox? Le Barouge.
I'll talk about either team. I mean, it's really depressing to see how little anything is happening unless you're the New York Yankees.
I have tears in my eyes.
With Derek Jeter.
The cheater. Jeter the cheater. I said that you were going to come and indict him.
It's all rigged.
Well, lay your case out, Mr. Colapinto. You've done it in many courtrooms.
Well, I mean, come on. I mean, the guy, you know, sends him. He actually ends up sending money to the Yankees.
He sent money to the Yankees?
Oh, yeah.
He sent $30 million to the Yankees.
To cover,
Man,
but in all fairness, they tried to send him to the Giants and the Cardinals before the Yankees, and Stanton refused, which he had the right.
Yeah, but they knew that Stanton was going to refuse those teams because he wasn't on the list. So those teams weren't on the list.
Right.
They tried to work out deals with teams. It's another argument I have that it was all rigged. I mean, it's crazy. And you think about this guy can opt out after, 2 or 3 more years?
Yes.
So unless you thought the guy was going to stick around and collect his paycheck in Miami, which he probably wouldn't, he probably would have opted out. So why are you sending $30 million to the Yankees with a guy that is probably going to opt out in 3 years? You could have traded him next year.
Harry Frazee was a friend of Colonel Rupert. He had no interest in baseball at all. He went and bought the Red Sox because Colonel Rupert could not buy them. And he raped the team. And then years later in the 50s, Bob Johnson, who owned the lease on Yankee Stadium, for Del Webb and who's the other guy? They're both developers.
Topping.
and Dan Topping and Del Webb. One of them created Sun City. They were big, big, big developers.
Oh, absolutely.
They bought the Yankees. Bob Johnson bought Kansas City and then made sure that, all sorts of players were sent to New York, including a guy who still owns the American League record for home runs, Roger Maris.
Oh, Kansas City to the Yankees, yeah.
Yes. What famous, here's a trivia question. What famous, probably the most famous football player ever, was drafted and no, he wasn't drafted because it wasn't that era. It's the early 60s, let's say. And I've already given away a part. The Kansas City Athletics offered him $25,000, but the Cubs offered him $50,000.
Oh.
That was Charlie Finley's. But he decided to play football.
In the NFL?
I didn't say that.
Oh. So
If I told you that it was not the NFL in the 1960s, the very fact I'm telling you, the most famous football player ever.
well, I would say that would almost be Jim Thorpe in a way, but
How is Jim Thorpe the most famous football player ever?
oh,
It's like saying Bobby Jones is the most famous golfer.
well, Thorpe was known for everything. Well-known name. The only
He's
one
known for track and field.
the only one I can think of is a quarterback for the Baltimore Colts way back.
You got a team that was significant in this guy's career. Joel Elber, are you out there? Call in. Come on, Dave. He was. If it wasn't the NFL, who in the '60s, who drafted him? What a team from the AFL?
Oh yeah, it's,
Colts. Now, folks, do you see the need for the show I'd like to call Seam Heads, where we could have like Mike Doyle here who knows football, or Joel?
yeah. I don't know.
Joe Namath. Joe Namath is
Joe
most.
Namath played baseball?
He wanted to. He did.
Did he really? I didn't know that.
Well, he's offered $50,000 for the Cubs, but his father had insisted that he go to college because they knew what Joe would do with the $50,000. I guess he came into when Joe was off. The Cardinals offered him $17,500. This is 1961. Do it factor by 10. And he said, and the father says, who was a steel worker in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, Joe, what are you going to do with that money? He says, I just saw the prettiest convertible. So he insisted that he go to college.
He went to Alabama, didn't he?
Right, but that's because he wanted to go to Maryland, but he didn't have the boards. Because interestingly, he didn't play football to his senior year. He had played a little, and then he took the team to like the Pennsylvania championships. But before that, he was a great, outstanding baseball player, which, in Pennsylvania. But of course, what's in Pennsylvania?
Yeah,
the old NFL, football and stuff.
But he wasn't a proven major leaguer.
They said he would probably. Well, what he always said, he figured he'd be an outstanding player. It might be in a World Series team, but with football, he became. There's no player that's ever been as famous as Joe Namath.
That one,
maybe Jim Brown.
He the '69 Super Bowl. They beat the Colts.
70s.
Jets.
70 was held.
Was it 70?
Super Bowl III.
Yes, it was Super Bowl III, and that got him his name.
Yeah, the Colts were.
It made the AFL or whatever it is.
The AFL. That was the year, I think, Dave, that they consolidated.
No, they
on equal terms.
No, they did it a couple years later because Kansas City.
Oh, right, that's right. It was after that.
Yeah, Kansas.
NFL.
Kansas City beat somebody the fourth year, and then they were even already.
Oh, so that was instrumental into getting the two leagues together.
Yes.
Into one.
Yeah.
Because I remember it as a kid, that was as big as you get. And Joe was in movies, as great a quarterback as our great Tom Brady is. He never starred in a movie with Anne Margaret. Did he? What, that god-awful CC and Company, which I saw to drive-in. Well, I didn't see it. It was like the movie in back.
Yeah.
You're going to see your mother's taking you to some Disney movie, and the good movies in the other in back of you. But yeah, Joe loved baseball, but
He
those
was,
knees let him down.
yeah, that 1 year made him, and he was. I wouldn't say
It
that
wasn't just that 1 year.
He had maybe 4 or 5 years
He was
at
the
the
rookie of
most.
the year,
Well,
highest paid athlete in history at the time.
was he?
Oh yeah.
That I did not.
$427,000
I
three-year
remember.
contract.
I remember he got
65.
something like that. Yeah, that
Sonny
rings a bell.
Werblin? Yeah.
That rings.
But that really, that's when gambling too moved from like horse racing into football too. But he was the biggest star of his time.
Oh, he was.
And we still talk about him.
Oh, yeah.
Except you guys just don't know your football trivia.
Oh, I don't.
Where is he now?
You don't know who Joe Namath is?
No, where
I
is he?
said, where is he now?
Where is he now?
He's on TV all the time, I guess.
Yeah?
We'd have to talk to Joel.
I don't see him that much.
Yeah, because he's just a bum,
He's up
He's
there.
got to be old now.
Yeah.
He was born in 41, so he's 75. He's 1 year,
70?
or was it 43? 43 he was born. He's 3 years younger than you, Mr. Baseball.
Oh, okay.
Joel, where are you? Well, Dave, let's hear the lament. You haven't made a very good indictment of Derek Jeter, but, short
Why don't
nose.
you ask you should have Mr. Marlins on your show. There's a season ticket holder down there in Miami who's all upset about what's happening.
Well, there's a guy here in this Twica that's talking that I think he's seen 13 or 14 Nationals game at two stadiums down in Washington, and they only lost once. But I don't know any but season ticket holders that ever invite him down for the playoffs.
Ooh.
And
They don't get out of the first round.
but I do know that a season ticket owner that said that, because I brought that up, said that I'd axed them.
I think they got hexed, man. It's like they just can't get out of the first round. They look great in the regular season. Postseason, as you know, is a whole different ball game. And so maybe this is the year they'll do it.
Oh, there we go. Hey, send me a ticket, and they'll get right into the World Series, I bet.
All right.
Not guaranteeing a win.
Oh.
We got to do something different.
Think different. Is it think different? Yeah, because the real thing is think differently.
Different.
But
Yeah.
why is your heart broken as a Red Sox player? Is it because this jackass they hired for manager is going to take their reliever and stick him into the 8th and maybe the 7th innings? Because hey, it worked for Raleigh Fingers and Mike Marshall.
You're talking about the
Gossage.
closer.
Yeah, the closer. They're going to take the closer, and I can get more flexible. I can get a little more innings out of them.
Yeah.
So we can get rid of everybody else, I guess. I don't know what's happening. What's going on with the Red Sox, Dave?
With the Red Sox, nothing's going on with the Red Sox.
They're not-
Silent movies.
Yeah.
Is there?
Have they signed anybody?
No.
They brought back Moreland at first base. Wow.
Yeah.
Now they still don't have a power hitter.
No, they don't.
Right. Everybody knows what they need. They need somebody to hit the ball out of the ballpark.
This is a game now of hitting the ball out of the ballpark and a bullpen.
Yeah, would you believe that the Red Sox of all teams, when you see, they hit more home runs than ever before overall in baseball, and the Red Sox were way down in the number of home runs.
Oh, yeah, they were.
They need to bring back George Scott, but that might be hard. We'd have to use Norm the Psychic. And I don't think he can talk to him, but I don't think he can get him out there to hit.
Rumor control has it that the Red Sox offered Bradley for Pugh of the Dodgers, Pugh, and all the sports announcers, the so-called journalists and everything said that would be the dumbest trade the Dodgers ever made in their history. So,
They've made some before.
Bradley's a .250 hitter. He's a great outfielder. You can catch the ball, no question. But Pugh has got power. He hits for some better average, and he's got a rifle of an arm.
Well, they're thinking like maybe in the old National League, which doesn't exist anymore, Bradley would be a very effective player.
Yeah, but
If he could steal bases, but he really doesn't. He doesn't.
if the Red Sox could pull that off, they should do it in a heartbeat. But I don't think it. Now that's one trade I don't believe. I just don't believe it. But who knows?
You do believe somebody named Tot or Cott for
Oh, I believe that. Yeah.
for one of the great, God knows what he'd done if he hadn't croaked.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. Hey, do you know what happened? Do you know what happened, Dave, when the great Lou Gehrig, how many MVPs did he win? Couple?
2.
Yeah, who took over very well after the Babe, and there comes Joe DiMaggio. I mean, what a stud! And when he got Lou Gehrig's disease, and he needed a job, what do you think the Yankees offered him, Dave?
Nothing.
That's right. Fiorello LaGuardia gave him a job at the Parks Commission.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, the Red Sox were all hard. And if you read that book by Halberstam, The Summer of '49, they said Ed Barrow, who was the general manager, treated the players, even Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio, like they were fiends and bums. And he got a percentage of all the money he could save. They gave him a budget. And they all they hated him.
Oh, of course.
But they had to go out every year and bust.
General manager.
They bust their stones. And Tom Yawkey had a country club.
Jim Bouton.
Yeah, Joe DiMaggio was a holdout one year.
Yeah, they treated him like crap.
Yeah, he did. He held out till May. And then the Yankees offered him 5 cents a ticket.
Oh, that's right.
And if he had taken the deal, he would have made a ton of money. But he didn't take the deal. And
Toots Shore told him not to. That's the famous thing.
Oh, Toots Shore. He got into it.
Back in those days, there were ball players, saloon keepers, and the journalists. It must have been fun to be a journalist then,
Yeah.
But, don't take it.
He just held out for about $4,000 or $5,000.
But remember, he said, "I want 40,000 or something." He says, "Well, Lou Gehrig's only getting 25." He says, "Well, he's underpaid." And then they used the press against Joe, and he's
Yeah, they did.
Oh, yeah.
the greatest player of his time.
They did. That was a common thing in those days.
Oh yeah,
Go to the press. Make them look bad.
But see, in Boston, that didn't happen unless the Boston press just attacked Ted Williams just because they didn't like him. Yawkey loved Ted Williams.
Oh.
Loved him.
I would have loved him too if I were a Red Sox fan.
But see, he was closer to Jimmy Fox and Lefty Grove. He brought over from the Athletics. They were closer in age, and they were drinking men. Yawkey loved to drink, and Ted. I never heard anything about Ted drinking. I'm sure he must have had a few drinks, but
I've heard both ways.
but he's never a drunk,
No.
because he wouldn't do anything that would hurt himself physically.
Yeah. I
He had
just
a terrible ex-wife.
I just read today that he shot about 12 pigeons with Yawkey in Fenway Park, and the Humane Society got on him, and he promised he would never do anything like that again.
Hell, that's nothing. Dave Winfield knocked 2 seagulls out of Toronto.
I know he did.
At least one. And got
Yeah.
in trouble, too.
Yeah.
Dave, are the Nats going to do anything this year, or are they just going to sit on their, your billionaire owners, it's tough to be a billionaire these years.
It
these
is.
days.
It really is. The owners of the Nats have made so much money. They own most of the development around the stadium,
Which is
They
tremendous.
own all
Tremendous,
of real
right?
estate. I mean, it's almost they're like the richest family in the Maryland, D.C. area. And
Developers.
they could, it's just a question of how much they're going to be willing to spend on salaries. Are they willing to go over the cap, and can they afford to, I think they'd like to re-sign Bryce Harper, but I don't think it's going to happen.
They've got to. You can't let the franchise go.
Yeah, but it's really not their decision.
Oh, it's Bryce Harper's decision.
They've already
Yeah.
he's already rumored to go to the Yankees, which I think is ridiculous. But
Right. Or we've heard the Cubs really want to make a run at him.
you know,
Maybe Dodgers.
any left-handed hitter with power, Yankee Stadium is very inviting. The short porch.
Not
Oh, sure is.
Are you sure that this new stadium is really that?
Oh yeah, it's almost a replica of the old one.
It's not really a replica. It's a bandbox.
Well,
compared to the old
they've
one.
got some nice club restaurants, club rooms, whatever you call them.
Have you been there yet?
No, I haven't. Yeah.
It's just a big concrete mall. I don't like the new stadium. The old stadium, that field was one of the beautiful things you could ever see.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you've been there. You were at the old Yankee 2, right? They call it Yankee 2, the post 74.
I only went to Yankee Stadium in 1973.
Oh, before. But I'm sure that
Yeah,
field was beautiful.
Before they did the remodel, and then
I'd rather see it then.
I went to the.
I guess that was Yankee 1, right?
Yankee 1, that's the 23. That was for 50 years. But when I went, when you see the field, the stadium was kind of grotesque, and the people, the fans at the time, because you could actually buy, a working class person could buy a ticket and did.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
that
I think it was
field was
72 or
beautiful.
73. I forget which year. The Red Sox. Dwight Evans was a rookie.
72.
Yeah, and I still remember the game. The John Curtis won the game for the Red Sox 1-0 through a 1-0 shutout.
Who was the Yankees pitcher? One of the wife swappers?
You know, I can't remember the Yankees pitcher. And this was in the days when they had Horace Clark at second
Jesus.
base and Roy White in left
Hey.
field. And
Horace Clark was the link to the greatness of, that 61 through. We're gonna let Casey out of this. I don't think Horace Clark wasn't there in 60, was he?
No, that was Bobby Richardson.
He was like 62 or 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was after that, actually.
He wasn't on the 64 team?
No, that was the Bobby Richardson was on those teams.
I thought Horace
Yeah.
Clark moved a few positions before they finally.
Oh, he probably did. He was just an average ball player. He was nothing special. The Yankees
Yes,
were-
but at the time when I was growing up, that was the Yankees. Him and Bobby Mercer.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's sad.
When did Joe Pepitone leave?
He left in the late '60s
With his hair dryer
with his hairdryer. It was first,
and his marijuana.
yeah. He actually did a little time in jail.
He did?
Yeah.
Do we have any famous Red Sox that did time in jail? I know Fergie Jenkins did, but that's not when he was in the Red Sox. Only Popeye, our manager, would take Fergie Jenkins and insist that he get traded to Texas where he'd win 25 games.
Right.
Because he liked to smoke pot with Bill Lee. Remember that?
yeah.
What did they call it? The Buffalo Heads?
The Buffalo Heads.
Did you ever have a drink with Bill Lee at the Elliott Lounge, Dave?
I never did. Did you?
No.
No.
He was gone he was there 78, but 79 he was with Dick Williams up in Montreal where he won 16 games.
Oh, yeah. The Red Sox never should have gotten rid of him.
Oh yeah, Yaz was incensed. He says, you don't give away a left-hander. Do you remember who they traded him for? The immortal Stan Pappy. Stan Pappy.
Good gravy.
And there was he a second baseman? And somebody spray painted on Lansdowne Street on Fenway, which you never saw because people revered it. Who the hell is Stan Pappy? Oh, Dave.
Did he ever play for the Red Sox in a regular season, or was it just they cut him loose?
Oh, he was up there with Mark Sullivan, the catcher. He did about 15 games, I think.
Haywood Sullivan.
No, Mark
Yeah.
Sullivan, Eddie Casco, drafted Mark Sullivan, Hayward's son,
Oh,
and he
his
was
son.
a backup catcher for like 4 years.
Okay,
And
yeah.
Bill James always said, "Why is this guy on a major league roster?" Well, we know because his father was the owner of the team.
Yeah.
Any last words, Dave?
Yes, keep hope alive. It's going to be a good year.
Well, I agree. I'll be down there probably in Washington in the homeless shelter, and maybe you can drop me off a sandwich and maybe a ticket to the ball game.
Ticket. We'll get you a ticket so you get you out of the shelter, and you can have a hot dog.
Do I get? Let's not get into that. The other perks. Okay, let's get rid of this right now. Thank you, Dave.
Take care.
Hey, have a good night, guys.
Take care.
Yes, I'm hardly one of the corporate clients, although they don't really do corporate clients. Dave's probably the premier whistleblower attorney in the world, along with Steve Cohen.
Really?
Yeah, so occasionally they appear on Matt Carnan Unleashed in the afternoon on the radio.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you got a minute left. If I don't know what to say, Mr. Baseball. You know, it's been a hellish year for me.
Yeah.
Baseball is always my comfort, but
No, it's still my comfort. It's just nothing's happening. The hot stove league is
gone
stagnant.
cold. It's gone cold.
Yeah, no, the Red Sox haven't made any moves. Nobody has. The Dodgers made a small one. The Yankees got rid of Chase Headley back to San Diego where they got him.
Okay, say goodbye. Adios, and you have the last word.
Okay, Cindy, pour me a beer. I'm heading over to Billy's Sports Bar. Keep swinging, folks.